So, David Holmes,
Ah.
wonderful to have you here. Thank you. That's just great. I love it when you drop in. This sounding bowl that you've got here, what number is that one?
Number 100.
Number 100.
Yeah.
Gosh, wonderful.
2001.
2001. So that's 17, 18 years old. One of our early ones, long before I took on an apprentice. Stuff has changed so much since I've been trying to teach other people how to do this. So you've been working with this for 10 years.
Yep.
It was at the hospice when you arrived.
Yep.
How's that been?
It was... Well, it's marvellous to find that it was here, that it was there when I arrived, and straight away it sort of became the instrument that I used most of all in the hospice, especially on the inpatient unit. Works perfectly on the ward for offering gentle music that people can drift and doze to, and it's not intrusive on the open ward. I can work with somebody at their bedside without intruding on the neighbours, and it's the way that I first begin a relationship with people. I carry it around and introduce myself, and if I'm carrying it, invariably people are curious about what it is, and they say, "Oh, what's that?" And they always ask me, "Did I make it?" They always ask me that.
Ask you that?
And I have to say, unfortunately, no, I didn't make it.
Just gives you over the road,
I said, it's made in Buckfastleigh, and they go, "Oh, Buckfastleigh, well, what a surprise."
Yes, because Buckfastleigh is the dog end of this area, isn't it?
Well, no, they think they sort of course, Buckfastleigh.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, you know, in the Totnes zone,
Right,
they're not surprised it comes from
Totnes
around
zone,
here.
Right, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People's first reaction to it is it must be Oriental. It must, does it come from Japan or something like that? Partly because I don't know that this scale suggests to people Oriental music.
It tends to, doesn't it? It's the pentatonic. Yeah.
And I usually say, well, it suggests to me more misty Scottish Islands. And they go, oh yeah, I get that as well.
Great. Yeah. Somebody once said to me, if you play the pentatonic in a 3/3 time, it sounds Celtic. If you play it in a 4/4 time, it sounds Japanese.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get that. There it is.
So you've got yours in a different tuning to mine, haven't you? So with mine, can I put it in your lap, because the camera focus is there, thank you. With mine, do Over the Sea to Sky again, would you? I can't find it. Lovely, thank you. So in your tuning, that finishes on the bottom string. So you're coming back to rest at the bottom of the Celtic scale.
Yeah.
In mine, it goes one note further down. That opens the scale up a bit. Yours gives a sense of landing, a sense of homecoming. And at the top end, you're finishing with another 3 notes, which is the tonic, the second and third, the root as you call it, the key notes. So I've settled on this tuning because I like the way it takes the 7 notes of the Celtic scale and expands it one down and one up, opening up possibilities. But opening up possibilities is also a way of saying what you've got isn't good enough. You can't rest where you are. It expands people beyond what may be their comfort zone. So if you bring your bowl back, you've created a whole other tuning there simply by bringing the scale down so it's on the bottom note. Then you've got the 5th and the keynote there in a lovely relationship. I always like the 5th, the dominant as people call it, below the keynote. When you go that starting there, bum, bum, ba, 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 bum, whatever you like. That bom 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 bom. That bom bom is such an important lift up into the beginning of things, and by putting that on the bottom note, you've emphasised the place of that in the whole scale. So, how do you typically play that when you're working with people?
Well, I always begin there. I always begin with offering this safe grounding. It's like we know we've got our feet on the ground. We know where we are. There isn't any anxiety. There's a sense of rest. And then if you add to that a slow rocking, you've straight away you've got a lullaby, really. And that's got the bowl vibrating with this restful energy. And then you can head off from there. So if you're playing for somebody who is struggling with pain, struggling with disorientation, for instance, finding themselves overwhelmed by the way that their illness is advancing, I sort of have a sense that you've got to start from a place of safety down here.
And when you're working that place of safety, do you use these top 2 strings very much, or do you tend to finish up the keyboards?
I have a sense of these top notes as being somewhere to go. I try and do it sparingly.
Right.
Because when you start going, it's such an extraordinarily powerful place to go.
Right. Wonderful.
Don't overuse it,
Yep, don't overuse it. Love it.
It kind of feels so far away and a place to dream about.
So very often the power in any expression is through not using everything you've got, keeping it as implied. Yeah. And those 2 top notes, excellent, love it.
And there's, you've got the octave, so it sort of reinforces the kind of the place to start from. You can move on from there when you feel as though the music needs to start to expand into a potential. Ask a few more questions.
So by coming by using you bring it into a questioning mode by using the sixth and the second as your baseline instead of the fifth and the first.
Yep. And
that's putting you into a minor mode.
So it's on here it's E minor. You're in, and you know, with this tuning, that is the sort of, that's the furthest you can go into that sort of suspended, slightly more doubting, curious place, you know, which the music has such, you know.
That's marvellous. I've never really been able to isolate a minor mood within the Celtic tuning, because the Celtic tuning is famous for being harmonious, for being simple, for being open and gentle, and by using the sixth and the second there, you've created that whole, as you call it, the E minor mood.
I mean, it's only a gentle way into it, you know.
Yes,
you're not
crashingly.
No, you know, you're not offering a diminished chord. You're just offering something that's in the context of this, sort of moving into a more suspended with a bit more tension.
Yes, it's like moving from a Mixolydian in the fifth and the first into an Aeolian, isn't it? And the Aeolian is a natural minor, so that gives a very gentle minor, not like the harmonic minor making much more open there. So in a sense, you've got a diminished seventh, but no fully, as you say, crashing chords.
I mean, and it still feels restful. It still feels kind of. It still is quite calm, and it's, you know, and then just by going up another, it's taken it a little bit further away without creating too much more tension. Just asking you a few more questions.
Right. So you only come into the first and third to create a questioning mood out of what you built up through the Mixolydian fifth and the first, the Aeolian sixth and the second, and then when you go what could by itself be quite simple and basic as the first and third, built onto those two, it progresses into a questioning open mood.
It's all in the context of sort of how you've played it in the, you know, up to that point.
Yeah. Everything is relationship. Everything in the world is relationship. It's one of my mantras. Nothing is settled as it is. So when you get to the first and the third, building it up as you do, you're creating a wide open questioning mood.
Something I move to. I go like this. So yeah, most of the time I have the bass down here going, offering the there's the floor is down here and it's safe and it's going to be there and it's going to be reliable even when we've gone up here. But then turn it on its head. Okay, so that was beautiful, but
You've gone beyond my musical understanding. What did you mean turning it on its head? That you're using these ones as your bass line, so where you had a sort of a rhythm established here, you now
just
got
swap it up there, so it's like you've turned the orchestra upside down.
Right.
And when I do that, it feels as though there's a kind of, it creates a sense of space. You kind of make, when you got felt very comfortable down here. It's kind of the air blows through.
Yes.
Yeah, that's more, less talking less about the sort of relations within the mode. It's more to do with the, I don't know what happens, a kind of feeling of orchestration, how to change the mood.
Yes.
And it always feels lighter when I go up here,
Yes.
and kind of have that as the kind of ground, and this is the voice. So. And I think I'm always playing in a sort of call and response mode.
Yes.
My hands are talking to each other.
Yes. That's the basis of all improvisation, isn't it? Call and response. That the notes have messages for each other. That they've got questions and answers in themselves.
Yeah. Often a sort of sense of asking questions, Which, the people I'm working with, they're asking a lot of questions.
Yes.
They've got a lot of unanswered things in their mind, and you have to sort of engage with the idea that the music is going to be touching those questions, maybe offering some kind of answer, not a conscious answer, just resonating with the...
That there is beauty and harmony even within these questions. That when you go beyond the scale, you're still in harmony and beauty. Mm-hmm. Or how would you put it?
Whatever the soul is feeling, whatever the soul is trying to understand about what it means to come to the end of your life, it probably can't be, or very often can't be understood. With the logical mind, it's a world where the music can ask the questions and perhaps sort of meet whatever somebody's trying to understand, just through the energy that it has, just through the it always feels like a leap. I'm doing this to go. It sometimes feels like an imposition to move away from the comfortable place, as if I'm challenging somebody, with this. In the context of where we've been sitting for a good spell,
Yes.
somewhere comfortable, to take them here. I have to come back quite quickly.
Yes. Huge. the power of such a simple scale to create home, to challenge the system, to ask questions, to show opportunities and possibilities, to come back through the questions and back to home again. Do you always bring people back home to that?
No, I don't. No, and sometimes it feels right
to leave the question open. I love it. I love it. Yeah. David, thank you so much for sharing that with us. I think that'll be really valuable. Really valuable. Is there anything else you'd like to say about 10 years of leaning over a sounding bowl?
The hours that I've spent looking into here. There's something that happens. 10 years ago, when I discovered this instrument and started finding out how to play it and play it for people in the hospice, each time I pick it up, I'm in the same place. Time, you know, being in here is time disappears, you know, and one of the things, the potential that music has, is to sort of move out of linear time and just be in this timeless space. So each time I'm here is as if it's the first time.
That's really, really beautiful. Because just the other day somebody said, I feel tentative around sounding bowls. She said, when I look at a flower, she said, I can fall into the flower because I know that I will land in it. But when I'm with a sounding bowl, she said, it's as if I don't know where I'd land, so I hesitate to fall into it because it's like infinite.
Okay. Because there's always this. Yes. That's where I always, you know, start.
Yeah.
You know, that I definitely fall into there.
Yes.
And
Yes.
I do. Yeah. Perhaps I'm happy to dive into the infinite. It's you know, it's a place where
working in a hospice, you're working
where people
with everybody who's on the edge of the infinite. And the fact that you are willing to dive into it, and yet to know that the music is always there, that must be a real offering that you've got for them. So thanks again, David. Thanks again.
Pleasure.
It's really lovely that you share that.
I still struggle with the question: how would I do my job without